Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this new edition of Sartorial Talks. Today we are in Prague, at the beautiful city in Prague, in Czech Republic, with my beautiful wife, Sonya. How you do, darling?
Great. It's wonderful to be in Prague. It's our second time here.
It's our second time here, and we are at the place at the Owners. It's called the Owners in Prague, a beautiful made-to-measure salon. And we just shot a couple of episodes with them, and we wanted to take advantage of being here to address a subject that I know we already addressed a few times here and there, but we wanted to dedicate an episode on something very important, because a lot of our subscribers are still asking the question, but sometimes say, where can I go bespoke? And then when we say to them, well, we can go here and here, and then when they hear about the price, say, oh, no, I don't have this kind of budget. So I think it's important to re-clarify what is the difference between bespoke tailoring and made-to-measure.
Right, and you know a lot of the MTM places have different names for their businesses, and sometimes they indicate that it is bespoke because maybe even they themselves don't understand what they're doing. So this is becoming a very diluted word. Bespoke is sacred. It's not a word to be used lightly.
Yes.
And this is also our point. So keep your eyes open, and at the end of this episode, hopefully you'll understand how to make that difference quite easily.
So I agree with you about this. You said bespoke is sacred. It's very, very important for us. As Charles Baudelaire, our French poet, used to say when he was speaking about modernity, I know, I've been quoting this, but I love this quote. I've been quoting it a lot. He said, being modern is the capacity of catching what is eternal in the ephemeris. Everything is changing, but a few things that are eternal. Bespoke tailoring, bespoke shoemaking, bespoke shirt making is the eternal side of modernity. It has to be made by hand, strictly. This is something that has to be protected. And most of people now, they use the word bespoke, and not most of people, let's be fair. Many people are using this word without really, matching the mark of really being authentic.
That's
bespoke.
right. So if we jump right in, and I give an example
Yes.
of, say, 6 things to look for in a bespoke atelier.
Yes.
Let's just get straight to the point. The first thing that you're going to notice when you approach in a bespoke atelier is that the name of either the tailor, person who sews, the cutter, the person who's cutting the individual unique pattern, or the master tailor, the person who can both sew and cut, that name will be on the door of the atelier.
Yes.
Almost every time.
I would say every time, even if it's not the same generation. We can take many examples, but if you go to Chiffonelli, there are Chiffonellis cutting the fabric. If you go to Ciardi in Napoli, there are Ciardi cutting the fabric. If you go to, for example, Pino Peluzzo, you will meet Mr. Peluzzo. If you go to, these are names that are related to some people. It can be slightly different.
I've never seen an exception, but maybe you can think of
the UK, for example, Henry Poole, it's owned by the same family as it was, but there are not any Henry Poole
Very
around,
good example. Excellent.
On the reverse, Dejan Skinner, for example, you have Michael Skinner and all the team of Skinner. So that's a very good thing. It's most of the time family business, or if it's not family business, you most of the time have people around who are from the family, but it's an heritage business for sure.
Right. In the case of Henry Poole, we actually had that name present at one time in the business, although he's no longer here.
Of course.
Exactly. The second point is the garment is made on site, with the exception of sometimes trouser makers working off site, but almost every time the garment will be made on site at the atelier.
Yes.
Second point.
That's the second point. It is true in France. It is true in England. It can be slightly different in Napoli, for example, in Italy, where there's a tradition of people working in the city, but at home.
Mainly on the trousers.
Mainly on the trousers, but even sometime on the jacket.
It
they can make it at home. It doesn't mean that they are not bespoke. It's made at home. It means basically a guy take a motorino and a scooter and bring this to a group of tailors who are working at home. It's okay, it's the same thing. But it's what you want to say is that the garment is not sent to a factory.
It's not sent to a factory, right?
This is very important.
And that's a good point, especially with our experience with COVID and everyone working from home anyway. I think it's more acceptable now for at times to be made off-site, but not in a factory. The actual crafter is putting his hand to the cloth.
Yeah,
And that's a better way to say
I
it.
would say, even to be more precise, it makes at home, that is to say in the same premises, or at least in the same city, let's say.
Probably, yeah.
Yes.
I think that's a good clarification. Next thing, number 3, the pattern. And you'll see patterns when you go into a bespoke atelier. You'll see patterns all lined up, but you'll also see patterns in a factory. So what's the difference?
It's confusing.
The difference is, the difference is when you go into a bespoke atelier, you're going to see each pattern representing a person.
Yeah, and each pattern has a name on it.
It is, yes, yes. Hugo would have his pattern, and it would say Hugo Jacquemet.
Yes.
That's his pattern. You go to a factory with made to measure, you're going to see patterns, but it doesn't represent an individual. Instead, it represents sizes. And we'll get to that later.
And that's the reason why it's more affordable, because it's a little bit more standardized. Even as like here, for example, the owners in Prague, they do a wonderful job with made to measure. Still, it's not totally bespoke because they are working with pre-existing patterns. They are not dedicated to one individual, but to several individuals, of course.
When you walk into a bespoke atelier, you see a lot of different patterns. Each pattern is unique to each person that the suit is being crafted for.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say even further than that, each pattern is for each suit of each individual. That is to say, my pattern for a double-breasted is not as my pattern for a single-breasted. It might be because also my sizes, depending if I spend a long time with Sonya in Napoli, when we come back, we put on 2 kilos normally. This is the average because the food is so good there and we have so many friends. So it means that it's, well, listen to that. It's one pattern, one person, one suit. That's real bespoke. All the rest can be fantastic quality, but it's not real bespoke. Same for the shoes.
Yes.
For the shoes, they take a real piece of wood that is preformed, actually, and then the shoemaker will work a lot on it, and then you will have your name on the piece of wood.
Which is called a last.
Exactly.
Yes. Next point. We are going to talk about something called basting, and this only happens in a bespoke atelier. You won't see any basting going on in a factory, so you ask, what is basting? Well, literally basting is putting your suit together almost like it's a skeleton. You're just gently sewing very few stitches, wide stitches to connect the arms, connect the parts of the suit, but these parts can easily be disconnected and resewn to make the suit according to your proportions and morphology.
This is very precise. I don't know if we say basting or basting.
You know what? Maybe you do say basting.
Basting.
Apologies if I mispronounced it. Yeah, I'm Southern after all.
If there's somebody from the UK, tell us if we do basting or basting.
I think basting sounds more sophisticated. Yeah. I'm from the South in the United States, so basting is going to come out of me. You know, it's just going to come up the surface.
This is very true. And you know that at a real tailor, when your measurements are taken, a basting can be done very quickly because it's just very loose. It's just like, we can say, it's like when you do a painting, you can do a rough, just a rough, you know, with a pen, right. And then it will take your basted suit, and then from there, it will start the construction of the suit. I'm sorry, you probably noticed that my voice is a little bit weak. It's just not, I'm not ill, I'm not sick, I'm fully in good health, but I've been recording a few hours of interviews, and my voice sometimes is going a little bit weaker, but I'm still here.
Yeah, stay with us, stay with us.
Yes, continue.
So you know, with basting.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say basting, it's me.
Okay.
So with that, you know, it usually takes about 4 weeks to come back in and try on your basting suit, and that's called the first fitting.
Yeah.
So sometimes when Hugo and I are out and about and we call an atelier up and say, okay, do you mind if we swing by for our suit? We found out, and we learned very quickly that they can put that together very fast.
Very fast.
You know, maybe like in a day or two.
Yeah.
And so we can show up and try on our basted fitting.
Yes,
so I gave basted a chance.
So that's the signature of a bespoke atelier for sure.
It is. Next, there will be numerous fittings.
Yes.
Not so with MTM. You might have one. Okay, so how many is your most?
I would say authentic bespoke tailoring, I would say it's minimum 3, including the basting.
Right.
That is basting plus 2 fitting, which is the norm.
Yes.
After, it depends. People like me who are crazy or want to go really for the ultimate detail with my tailor Lorenzo Cifonelli in Paris, we can go to 4, 5, even 6. I know some clients, well, they're very well known for that. Japanese people are very precise, so they can go up to 3, 4. But let's say 3 fittings would be the norm.
If you're a woman, you might have to go to 4 fittings.
Yes,
so,
for obvious reasons.
So you can see.
Of course. Yes. But the thing is that in MTM, this is where you can make also the difference between good made-to-measure salon and not so good made-to-measure salon. Okay, you are measured, the suit is sent to a factory, unlike Bespoke, and then it comes, it's all done. There's no basting, there's no fitting, etc., etc. But after that, you can make some alteration, and some good made-to-measure salon have alteration in-house. Like, for example, here at the owners, Veronica, she's doing the alteration right there in the atelier.
But we will get to MTM. So the last point we want to just make in terms of what to look for with the Bespoke atelier, and there may be others, but this one is design galore, because there's so many designs you can do with Bespoke. You could do a cowboy suit with a fringe waistcoat.
Me?
You could do, why not? But yeah, but the gap's closing because more MTM makers that are good are offering more and more options.
Yes, but the point is that Bespoke is the sky is the limit. You can really basically design your suit from scratch. But I have something to say about that.
Please do.
Is that, well, you have also the other extreme. There are some, I know some Bespoke tailors who are very respectable artisans, extremely good, but who are doing the same jacket since 50 years. And some of them don't want to do another jacket because they don't want to take risk, because they want to stay timeless according to their view of the world and kind of immune to the world around us.
That's true. They're in the cocoon. They call that the house style, and they're very rigid.
Yes.
That's
so
it.
we know some tailors who are doing the same jacket, unfortunately. I mean, not unfortunately, if you like their house style, since 50 years. Why? Because they don't want to take risks. They know how to do this jacket. So you see, the sky is the limit, but at some tailors you have to, if you like their style, go there. But the counter-example, for example, is Lorenzo Cifonelli, once again, who was one of the first in the, Rubinacci is doing this also, in the... Pino Peluzzo also is doing this. Now they are doing some creations. They are trying to explore, you know, they are not immune to the world around them. And when you go to Cifonelli, you go to Rubinacci, you go to Pino Peluzzo, you can see jackets. And it can give you inspiration. You can see, at Cifonelli, you can see some crazy jackets, actually, that even nobody would even think to buy. But just to tell the people that bespoke tailoring doesn't mean boring jacket, like ultra classical. It can be extremely creative.
And then in London, you could add David Taube.
Yes.
And also Lee Marsh.
Michael Brown. Michael Brown, very creative. Joe Morgan is doing the same kind of style, but I love his style, but that's another story.
Okay, so now let's switch over to MTM.
Yeah.
Okay, with MTM, I think I have 4 points that we could go over that kind of defines what MTM is. First of all, we have to say with MTM, the suit that you're being measured for will usually be done by either a sales associate or what you call an MTM specialist.
Yeah.
So do you have any comments about that?
Well, this is where, how do you say it in French? We say le talon d'Achille, the Achilles heel. The Achilles heel of a good made-to-measure salon, well, there's 2 Achilles heel. The quality of the factory and the quality of what they call normally the style advisor.
Yes.
That is to say, the guy who's going to measure you, who's going to advise you, who's going to guide you, who's going to really, really take you by the hand and say, okay, sir, with your physique, I will advise you maybe to have some stripe and some checks, this kind of shoulder, this kind of lapel. So this is, everything is about the relationship for me with the advisor.
The knowledge.
And the knowledge, and it's very easy to spot.
Right.
I mean, a guy, if you study, if you look at a few episodes of Sartorial Talks, and then you're going to be equipped to go to the MTM salon. So for me, this is the Achilles heels of a good made-to-measure salon. It doesn't mean that you can't go for some people. Now there's some online experiences. There are sometimes can be good, but for me, if you really want to secure something really good, it's better to be in person.
And if you've never had a suit, why not try an online experience just to see what it's like?
Yes,
and
yes, yes.
No problem with that. No problem with that. And don't forget that the name on the door can be something like flowers is power. I mean, it doesn't matter. It could be any name on the door. It usually doesn't have to can you say signify? Signify. I can't.
Significant.
Okay, it doesn't
Signification.
it doesn't have to signify. It doesn't have to signify a certain person. Oh God. Okay, anyway. So now the next point that I want to make is the similarity between bespoke and made to measure is each time it takes about 2 hours your first time in to figure out what you want, the details, and all the extras that might be included. Nothing else to say about that?
Well, the difference is that 2 hours in the MTM salon for the only appointment and then the delivery of the suit. At a tailor is 2 hours for the first appointment, and then you have a second fitting, and then you have a third fitting, and then you have maybe the delivery. So the relationship with a bespoke tailor is always longer and deeper.
And the total sum of the time is
Exactly.
obviously
Even
more.
if in good made-to-measure salon, some people can really dedicate time in the good ones.
Yes, I love how you always have something to add. Very, very important information, though. I was planning on skipping over the 2 hours very fast, but I love it. Thank you. Keep going. So next thing, and this is an experience that happened to me, personal experience, is, MTM, they're going to send these operations, some very quality ones even, are going to send every suit to a factory to be made, and then it's going to be sent back to you to try on.
Yeah.
Well, what happened to me with my first MTM suit is that I was told it would be made in Oxford, in Chicago. I was like, that's amazing. MTM in Oxford?
In Oxford, the
maker,
brand,
the brand, yes.
It's OXX.
Yes.
It's a fantastic factory.
I was so excited. And so I get my suit back, and I look inside the jacket, and it says, a totally different factory, nowhere near Oxford, more near an eastern country. And I was just like, but if I hadn't have checked, I would have paid a lot more because they ended up reducing the cost by $400 just because I looked.
You're speaking about transparency here.
Transparency. Right? So find out where your suit's made. It's just a part of the process. It is about transparency. It puts everybody at ease just to talk about it and understand it.
I have something to add about that, is that when you look at the website of the made-to-measure, most of the time, they're going to speak about the mills. All our fabric come from the best Italian mills and English mills and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So they try to take the history of the mill there are, but they're just clients of these mills. And when you don't, it's not noted somewhere. It doesn't have to be at the front page of their website, but it's nowhere to be found. Why is it crafted? It means they don't want to tell you where is it crafted.
That's right.
And that's all. Here, at the owners, it's very clear, it's made in Portugal. You go to Julien Scavini in France, it's very clear, his entry line is made in Romania and his best line is made in Italy. If you go to Howard's, Frédéric Costa in Paris, it's very clear, it's made in Italy. And it's not a crime if you do your jacket in China, it's not a crime if you do your jacket in Portugal, in Romania, in Italy, it doesn't matter. But you have to be transparent. And we're gonna make sure that more and more made-to-measure salons do like this, because what I really don't like is that when they try to steal the history of the Italian mills, the history of, you understand, it's like an usurpation for me.
That's true.
And I think transparency in our world is everything. Not always, because in our everyday life I also like the fact that nothing has to be transparent. Private life is a secret and public life isn't. But this is another subject. But in terms of production for our business, it's very important.
And also get rid of this idea that there's a correlation between the location and the quality of the make.
This is not true
It
anymore.
doesn't even matter if you live in Timbuktu, or if you have good makers using good quality raw materials, making a good product. The location can be irrelevant, so try to keep an open mind, even with this.
Yeah, but honesty is key.
Totally. Okay, the final point with made to measure is once you get that first suit back, or the first jacket, it's going to be, of course, tried on, and there probably will be some adjustments to make.
Of course.
So some MTM makers will send your suit all the way back to the factory and then back to you again. And others, like here at the owners, they will do the alterations on site.
Well, I mean, this is something that I will really, that will really be careful of, because it's if they have to send it back to, I don't know, China, Vietnam, whatever, Romania, whatever, it's not a good sign for me. Because even I know some people who have no alteration in-house, but they have an alteration tailor at the left corner of the street.
A good point.
You understand? Because never forget that we live in a world where sustainability also has something, is very important, And if your suit has to travel 2 times or 3 times to China before getting delivered to you, it's not really good, So I know for example, Frederic Costa at Howard's, he doesn't have an in-house alterator, but I know the alteration tailor is just next street. But most of them, like Julien Scavini, like here the owners, like a lot of made-to-measure suits, they have alteration inside because it's more practical.
Right, it is. And earlier I was speaking with someone here and was told that the problem is sometimes you can't really communicate exactly what adjustments are needed. That it is not comprehended well. There's a communication gap, which can happen between the MTM shop and the person that's doing the alterations.
Yeah, this is why it's not bespoke, because that's the big difference. The bespoke tailor, okay, you pay much more, but you have 3-4 fittings, and so the tailor, he has all the time in the world, because some people say, oh, I went to a bespoke tailor, but the measuring was less precise than a made-to-measure. Of course, because the tailor will have 3 fittings to adjust his work.
Yes, you have to think of the total sum.
Exactly.
The total sum.
Whereas the made-to-measure salon has only one opportunity to take a measurement, so it has to be more precise.
I never thought of that.
You never thought of that.
Very good.
You know what?
Very good point.
I just think about it right now. Yeah, and that's
you got a big head with a big brain.
Well, I don't know, but this is the main difference, because on the made-to-measure they can't change. The measurement is the measurement.
It is.
The bespoke tailor, he has 2-3 fittings to readjust it. So this is why the measurements are less precise in bespoke, which is a kind of a paradox.
That's right. Love it. So next point, and we're closing out this point about MTM and the things to look for. So we just want to give you a little bit of clues for things to look for when you order your MTM suit, so you can prevent problems in the future. We've had 2 experiences, and so let's talk about a few things. First thing is, if you choose an English cloth, it's going to take a lot longer to get your suit because, as you know,
because
a thing
of Brexit.
called Brexit happened. And so it's going to take much longer. Next thing is, you need to look for 2 things that could happen. You could have a very strange operating button. For example, I had one operating button all the way up to here, which there's no way that's anywhere near my chest.
It's fundamental.
It's fundamental.
Button placement.
Next thing, gorge can be very high in some MTM shops. So you could have your gorge up here.
What do you mean your gorge? Your notch?
Yes.
Yeah, the notch.
Yes, the gorge is this area here, and this is the notch itself. So the gorge can be positioned way up here, and it looks a little bit strange. Also, the peaks, like I'm at the limit of the peaks. Sometimes the peaks can be way up here, which looks like you have little wings. Another thing to look for. Another thing to look for is the lining inside the jacket can sometimes be cheap polyester, so you want to request a nicer lining. Pay a little bit more because it really makes you feel better to have a nice lining.
Of course.
The last thing that I would say is the lapel. Choose a lapel that has a little substance to it. Some MTM makers, they can't help it, that they can only do certain lapels. So if you have that option, you may want to make sure you get the lapel that you like the best.
I agree with you. Well, as a wrap-up about that, I would say, if you have the wallet, but if you start your sartorial journey, I will strongly advise you, start with a good made-to-measure to refine your taste, to make your first experience. And when you're ready, you know a little bit more what you want, you can go bespoke. It's not a very popular, we love all the bespoke tailors in the world, but I think it's a very wise advice to say, start, taste the customization with a good MTM salon, and then you can go bespoke. The second thing is that if you have the wallet, remember always, that a bespoke tailor, when you buy a suit with them, not only you do something good for you, but you do something good for the environment and you protect a craft that is so important. We will never be able to replace a hand with any kind of mechanization, and becoming a tailor will never be, you'll never be able to become a bespoke tailor with a tutorial on YouTube.
Right. And how sad it would be to see these artisans disappear.
Okay,
so really
I think we covered pretty much the subject, darling.
Yes, I hope so.
It was a blast.
It was fun.
Yeah, you've been playing with the microphones a little bit.
You know, that's my downfall in production.
So we were in Prague at the owners. We are very happy. I don't know which camera. We're surrounded by so many cameras. Center. So maybe the center camera is here. Mm-hmm. So we give you an appointment to the next episode of Sartorial Talks. And in the meantime, cheers. And I will kiss my wife.
Oh my.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Got it.